Saturday night was family TV night for me when I was a kid. And this is what I expected to hear on those nights. That show aired from 1959 to 1973 for 14 seasons and 431 episodes. But Saturday night was problematic for me, and here's why. In 1959, I was 9 years old and pretty much considered myself a cowboy. I was one of 5 children. We had one TV with only 3 channels, and Mom and Dad pretty much controlled the channels. Mom's favorite TV show was Perry Mason, and it was on at the same time as Bonanza. I think Mason won out most of the time, at least until NBC switched to Bonanza to Sunday nights. Bonanza was a Western set during the Civil War and after the Civil War. It began on Saturday, 12 September 1959. And at the start of the 3rd season, fortunately for me, NBC switched it to Sundays, and it became the family's favorite Sunday night show. In 1959, the top 4 most popular television shows in the United States were indeed Westerns, and they became the staple and a cultural phenomenon of the 50s and 60s. And in fact, many of them are still rebroadcast today. Those of you who watched Bonanza know that it's a TV show about 4 men defending their 600,000-acre ranch near Nevada City, or Virginia City, Nevada. The patriarch of the close-knit Cartwright family was Ben Cartwright. He had 3 sons by 3 different wives, all deceased before the first episodes. Each son had different physical and personality differences. Adam Cartwright, played by Pernell Roberts, was the firstborn. He was educated, serious, and responsible. Eric Haas Cartwright was played by Dan Blocker. He was the second-born. He was the warm-hearted, lovable giant, gregarious and oafus. Joseph Little Joe Cartwright was played by Michael Landon. He was the last-born, and he was boldly romantic and quite impulsive. They had a cook, Hop Singh, played by Victor Sen Young. He appeared in 102 episodes. But some of you may remember him as Charlie Chan's number 2 son, Jimmy. Ben Cartwright was a widower and father of 3 adult sons when the show began. The writers did create episodes explaining the sons' mothers and revealed them to the viewers. His first wife, Elizabeth Stoddard, played by Geraldine Brooks, was a New Englander and the mother of Adam. Ben Cartwright at the time was a sailor out of New England, going into partnership with Elizabeth's father, a former sea captain. Elizabeth died hours after giving birth to Adam in 1830. For Ben, it was the reason to leave New England and search for a new home. Ben's second wife was Inger Borgström, a Swedish immigrant played by Inga Svensson. They gave birth to Ben's second son, Eric Haas. Eric Haas Cartwright was called Haas because it meant big, friendly man, and because it was her brother's wish that they would call their first son Haas. She died in an Indian attack. Ben and his two sons continued traveling toward their Ponderosa. Along the way, he met his third and final wife, Maria de Marigny, in New Orleans. Adam and Haas were about 12 and 6, I think. She had Joseph Francis Cartwright, whom they called Little Joe, or Joe, and she was the only wife of Ben Cartwright to live on the Ponderosa. When Joe was 6, Maria died from an accident when she fell off a horse. She's buried on the ranch. There is actually a fourth brother, only seen in one episode. His name is Clay Stafford. He's played by Barry Coe. He was introduced in the 4th season, but after killing a man in self-defense, local miners want to run Clay Stafford out of town. Little Joe sticks up for him. That's when Clay reveals to Little Joe that they have the same mother, Maria, making them half-brothers. A little-known fact, perhaps, about the show Bonanza was when Barry Coe was introduced, Pernell Roberts was making his plans to leave Bonanza. Coe's character was to take the place of the exiting Roberts, but apparently some of the lead stars felt Coe's good look would detract from their own stardom. So after only one episode, Clay Stafford would never return. Toward the end of Bonanza, Ben adopted Jamie Hunter, played by Mitch Vogel, as his own son. Jamie Hunter was the son of a rainmaker who died due to health problems. In a 1971 episode, Jamie officially takes on the surname Cartwright. He therefore becomes the fourth son. Here's some trivia about the long-running show Bonanza. Did you know that Lauren Green was only 13 years older than his on-screen sons, Pernell Roberts and Dan Blocker? In the show's early episodes, the Cartwrights were hostile to visitors. Lauren Green pointed out that since the Ponderosa was so large, the Cartwrights would be an important business interest in the community, and that people would visit for economic, political, and social reasons, and that the Cartwrights would logically welcome them. So therefore the producers agreed and altered the characters accordingly. Adam The oldest son became an architectural engineer after studying in Boston. The writers said that Adam Cartwright went off to sea to explore, probably Australia, because it was mentioned a couple of times in the story of Bonanza. There is a site that says an episode called Forever was originally supposed to have Haas marry, but instead it was Little Joe, because Dan Blocker died before the next season started. Did you know the majority of the male characters were clean-shaven? Well, I'm sure you knew that, but that wasn't likely because there was a lack of running water in that period, and it also wasn't the style for men in that era. Yvonne DiCarlo appeared in the very first episode, September 12, 1959, as singer-actress Loda Crabtree, but you might remember her as Lily Munster. During the first season of Bonanza, the Cartwrights can be seen galloping on horses on a dirt road that contains unmistakable set of tire tracks from the truck carrying the camera in front of them. Can you see the tracks there? Bonanza aired from 1959 to 1973. Only Gunsmoke ran longer as a Western series. Bonanza was first Western broadcast in color and was different than most Westerns of that time. Instead of featuring gunslinging cowboys roaming the prairie, the main characters were landowners bound to a ranch. They mostly settled disputes, not through shootouts, but by employing diplomacy and dialogue. Bonanza was the first series that was week to week about a family and its troubles. The Cartwright family, with Ben Cartwright as the family patriarch, 3 adult children and no women, owned and operated a Lake Tahoe ranch. There, they discussed issues like gun violence and bigotry. Someone said there was never an issue that the Cartwrights couldn't talk to death. Bonanza was considered a period drama that attempted to confront contemporary social issues. Many other shows tried but failed because the sponsors didn't like it, and the networks were apprehensive about getting letters from viewers. In that era of television, it was difficult to accomplish such a feat. Bonanza succeeded for 14 years doing that and entertained us as well.